Welcome back, hobby fanatics, to another tutorial. The new Warpaints Fanatic range features an advanced high-performance formula, and we're going to showcase them on some advanced techniques in today's video. A true test of hobby technique, broken down with our flexible triads. Let's learn how to paint non-metallic metals. The flexible triad system is fantastic as it provides you with a spectrum of colors that work well to establish volume and color at the same time. You can use all 6 in the family or a selection and even mix them with necessary colors from other triads like we'll be showcasing today. We will also be using our Warpaint stabilizer and retarder. The retarder will help to prolong the drying time of the paints, which is helpful when blending. And the stabilizer, which is also found in every Fanatic paint formula, can be used as an additive to retain pigment dispersion when thinned to extreme levels to help prevent streaking. Thomas is in the studio today, and he's starting on this bronze sword with a base coat of carnelian skin. While many of the skin tones are perfectly suited for painting a diverse skin tones, they are versatile for many different uses. For the gold, he'll use a base coat of leather brown, a paint that exists outside of the yellow triad, but works really nicely when painting up muted yellows and golds, as you'll see. For the silver sword, Thomas utilizes the black base coat and applies a sectioned base coat highlight with deep gray in an alternating fashion on the blade. These will be blended later in future steps. The first highlight is applied with tiger's eye skin. There are many ways to blend paints: wet blending, 2-brush blending, stippling, but today Thomas is going to show you a simple feathered approach that is easy to pull off with the flexible triads. As you apply these fine brush strokes, less pigment remains on the brush, making for a very simple gradient. The silver will be highlighted with uniform gray in a similar fashion as before, now blending this into the previous base coat color. Now using Demigod Flames, a strong orange yellow, this will help to shift the non-metallic gold towards yellow away from that paler brown base coat. Following the same steps as before, refine your highlights in a more focused application with Barbarian Flesh. Then use Ash Gray and Fiendish Yellow respectively. If those feathered highlights appear a bit scratchy, that's totally okay. It only aids in the non-metallic effect, like you're replicating grain in the metal. With most blending, it's not always a 1, 2, 3 process. You may need to revisit some of your previous colors and go back and forth to help make a smooth blend. A wet palette and the Warpaints retarder will be really helpful with that. Now for this third pass with the highlights, we'll use Tourmaline Skin, Brigade Gray, and Space Dust. Here you can really begin to see how simple and effective the flexible triads can make blending, and the best part is you'll never find yourself forgetting that perfect mixed ratio of paints again, since there's no mixing involved, unless you want to, of course. For our fourth blend, you'll want to reach for Leopard Stone Skin, Matte White, and Ice Yellow. When applying this highlight, you'll be very conservative and focused with this application, keeping it within the previous blends, but don't forget, you can always go back to your palette and grab the previous colors if you overdo it. Here you can mix in a bit of matte white if you want to accentuate the effect, but it's not totally necessary. Thomas felt like the copper could benefit from it here. You can also use this color to begin picking out any fine details and hard edges. Now just join me while I pipe down and just enjoy how pretty these swords look. Wow, great work, Thomas. Now Thomas will grab some pure white. This will almost always be the final step when painting non-metallic metals, and it really helps to sell the effect. Thin down your paints with a bit of stabilizer, as this will help you to improve control for these very detailed techniques. If you'd like to make the transitions even smoother, go back to your base coat or darkest color used, then thin it down and apply a simple glaze near the transition, always pulling your paint to the darker areas. Using the stabilizer will help to retain that pigment density and dispersion when thinned to these glaze-like consistencies, as it reduces the surface tension of the paint while fastening the pigments uniformly in your mix. When you've got those transitions nice and smooth, you can always go back and add a bit more punch to the highlights. Working up volumes like this adds a realistic tonality to the technique. As we said earlier in the video, blending is rarely a linear process, so don't be afraid to go back and forth between your darker and brighter colors as you apply your finishing touches. Now you can see the finishing product, and these look beautiful. Whether you're a beginner painter or gamer looking for the fastest, easiest coverage, or an experienced painter who is pushing their paints to the limits, Warpaints Fanatic have set a new standard for what a miniature paint should be. Subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't already, and follow us across all social media outlets to be the first to see tutorials like this, and be sure to visit us at www.thearmypainter.com for more news and updates.